Hi, everyone. Welcome. It's National Activity Professional Week, and here we are on our final day. We're so excited to be with you once again to celebrate National Activity Professionals Week. My name's Elisa Tag, in case you don't remember, and I am the Association Director with the National Association of Activity Professionals. And I'm super excited to introduce you to Peter Illig, who is the CEO of the National Certification Council for Activity Professionals, along with Debbie Hommel, who is a board member with the National Certification Council for Activity Professionals. Thank you so much for being with us today. How are you all doing?
Very good, thank you.
Super. Thank you.
Awesome. Peter, I saw your little blurb earlier in the week wishing us all a happy NAP week. Thank you so much for doing that. I always love hearing from different people wishing us that because we've had a lot this year. I've been super excited about the energy that has come from the National Activity Professional Week and celebrating it. And we've seen so many amazing events on all the different pages. And I know, Debbie, you've been great about resharing some of those, and NCCAP has reshared a lot of that too. And it's just been super fun to see the celebrations. And so we appreciate you as our certification body and all that you do. And so I would love to hear how things are going with NCAP and what can we expect in the new year. And now we're starting a new year, right?
Right, right. Well, we've got about a half hour of time. And, one of the things I wanted to speak of is something from a personal experience. I think in some of the NCAP monthly newsletters in the past, I've shared about my 94-year-old father's journey, as he ages, across the lifespan, because he's now 94. He'll be turning 95 in June. And until this past April, he was still living independently in Florida, but we were observing him and he was becoming more frail and unstable. So in May, we moved him up to my younger sister's home where he lives with her husband and a couple of kids that come and go because they're mostly grown. But it's been interesting to watch what happens and relate it to what I've learned, in the going on 7 years working with activity professionals, and to see what really was a trauma for him to give up his independence and autonomy. And now, in the past 6, 7 months, watching him become more frail, physically. And so it really affords me an appreciation of what is needed because actually, he's a World War II vet, and the VA we've got a home aide coming in 3 times a week, and the vast amount of time, because he needs very little therapy or medical interventions, but the majority of time is social, and that's the majority of the time of what a person spends during the day. And that's what activity professionals do. But the attention has always and continues to be on the clinical medical side. And that's, every meeting I'm in, they're screaming about, we need more CNAs. We need more CNAs. So, that's one of the personal things that I've been experiencing.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful to share because I think coming from your point of view of being now a child and witnessing it as your parent, is, I don't want to say suffering is probably too harsh of a word, but you see the value of social engagement based on your loved one, and a lot of times we see that as well too, because it's hard coming from, the clinical point of view or the professional point of view to get out there and say all the time how valuable social engagement is and why, I just saw a good friend of mine post on another social media site, why are essential oils not part of Medicare reimbursement? But here we are, we give Seroquel and all these other harmful drugs to our patients rather than doing something non-pharmacological, and thinking about that too. And so obviously we know change has to occur. And I think we've learned a lot during COVID that how important change is too with the social engagement model. And I think that's been probably pretty good for us as professionals as we move forward, and continue to say, hey, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it and this is why it matters. And so we have to just continually raise our voice. And I know, Peter, you've had the opportunity to share that on many occasions with other organizations. Do you want to share any of that insight with us?
Yeah. So I think the most interesting conversation that I'm able to represent the activity professional, and is with this NASM, the National Association for Science, Engineering, and Medicine. And they submitted a report. These are the top academic government people who are advising where CMS needs to go. And, I was asked to serve on a committee, one of 7 committees, and it's focused on person-centered care. And actually, the 2 chairpersons are Penny Cook of Pioneer Network and Susan Ryan of Greenhouse. And as you know, they've merged and have a new entity called the Center for Innovation. So we'll see what happens there. But the emphasis is on person-centered care. And what's interesting, while one of the 7 had that title, person-centered care, all the other 6 committees have embraced that as a cross-cutting theme, because there's metrics. How do we measure performance? There's the tools, there's the application of care, but it's not just on activities or the social model of care, but it turns out that the topic that activity professionals are best at is now a cross-cutting theme. So there's clearly, lip service being paid. We'll see if it makes its way into the recommendations. But what's interesting is this person-centered care committee has focused on care planning as the entry point into which to deliver. And I'm waiting to see what that looks like, because, all these other departments are involved in care planning. And so, what I'm trying to say is like, well, if you look at the MDS and the, initial assessment and then the specific assessments that related to activities, there's a need for an activity professional, but the individual's got to have the competency. They need to have had some training, some education, some practice to be able to know how to do documentation and assessments and care planning. And if you don't, then that impacts quality.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's such a valuable statement right there about the documentation aspect, that, we're not just fun and games. And I think that's hard for people to see because activities should be fun and games, and that's what we are to do. But we also have that regulatory aspect of it all that we need to have the knowledge, the competencies, and the skills in to be able to function, in that right manner so that we are care planning appropriately so that it will be picked up and seen by everyone else. I think sometimes some of us write some amazing care plans, and I know Debbie will attest to that, but then we wonder who's actually reading them, right? I think that's kind of the conflict that we face a lot of times. I think it's better now with, of course, the electronic health record where it's all right there, where we can see it right away. But I also think it's still a challenge, for many of our activity professionals to find that professional aspect. Because I'll tell you, as we talk to a lot of our new members over the course of the time frame that I've been calling our members and everything, many of them don't have the documentation experience yet, or the MDS coordinator is doing their care plans for them, and so that's really kind of scary in a sense, and frustrating in another sense that we're not giving credit to those professionals, because that's what we are, professionals that to do our job appropriately, and that's a big challenge. I think
Yeah.
that's really, really frustrating. That's frustrating for me, as a professional myself. I'm like, well, I didn't have that luxury when I started in activities. I was pretty much trained in everything and told this is how it works. So,
Yeah, I agree with you on that with the care planning. At least I think people, current person today relies on the electronic medical record, but it's all done for them and they're not individualizing as much as they should. And I know as
right.
a MEPAP instructor, I feel balancing between writing it the old fashioned way and knowing how to write a care plan, and at the very least, individualizing the electronic ones that are offered. And
Yeah.
it's a hard balance, but I don't think they're taking as much advantage of it as they should. I agree.
Right. Michael Butler here, he says social engagement is so, so important, but difficult at times to engage those who lack insight and capacity. That's an interesting thought, that we have to find the individual in their reality to understand their needs. And I think that is such an important thing too, that we see that, yeah, we're going to have trouble sometimes maybe getting that life story. And so that's our job as a detective to, follow up and do that. So, I mean, that's a challenge that we have. And then somebody else wrote, I remember writing on paper. Didn't we
Right,
know? I mean, I
right,
love that.
There's
right.
another dinosaur out there.
Yes,
No,
lovely.
if I could add just a follow-on to this work with NASM, the National Academies,
Yeah.
they one of the things they've requested is that residents be included, you know,
Hmm.
for input. And I had the good fortune to participate in it was about a 1 hour Zoom meeting with about a dozen residents across the country who were recruited and had the capacity to contribute input to questions. And this specifically dealt with activities. And so what was interesting, first of all, it had to be residents who had the cognitive ability to communicate, but also the ability to interact with a computer, because this was none of them were having one was being assisted by somebody in the nursing home. But what I found interesting is there were three, the most articulate and outspoken, if you will, were women who were older, not as old as you would expect, but all three of the women, and they were in different parts of the country, were in a nursing home because they had MS.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they're talking about their experience because they're younger and they're highly functioning and they're frustrated because they're not getting activities that stimulate them. There's a board that goes up. It was pretty consistent. There's a board that goes up, but it's not individualized. And I'm hearing that a lot. But what I wanted to share that was probably the saddest was the woman was in the most advanced state of MS. Was in a nursing home in the New York City area, and she was talking about how often her requests go unheeded.
Oh,
Nobody responds to them, and so she feels unheard. And that she talks about the staff that do interact. So many of them, particularly the younger, are on their phones, have a bud in, and are either listening to something themselves or talking to somebody else or handling their own business, taking care of matters, bills, and this sort of thing. So it was a rather unfortunate stories to hear, and part of the response was, imagine how few we'd have or what the quality would be if we didn't let them have their phones. Like there's this whole cultural, generational identity with the screen that has to be factored in, when people are talking about what's the future of caregiving going to look like. But that was just fascinating to hear it directly from the residents, for me, who doesn't get the chance to work in.
right. And from residents who still had, their mental capacities intact, just because they had the physical limitations, they still saw and heard and understood what was going on around them. And that's the really scary part, and that's a very sad experience that these individuals have had to partake in. And
Yeah.
that how frustrating, and I think that's the challenge that we face is we see that a lot, sadly. We see a lot of this negativity. Obviously, the news media, they're so great, to really focus and highlight the negative aspects of our
Mhm.
profession, of the healthcare profession in general. And a lot of times these good news stories, the things that our activity professionals are doing on a daily basis kind of go unnoticed. And I was talking with another activity professional today. She was really frustrated because in her state, when COVID began, she was deemed unessential and was let go of her job. But her husband, who worked at an Ace hardware store, was deemed essential and stayed working. And so she was like, it doesn't make any sense here because and I'm like, well, people, I was jokingly saying, well, people were doing probably a lot of home improvement projects while they were home, right? So they needed to go to their local Ace hardware. But I just thought that was really sad that, as you stated, Peter, we're so focused on the medical model and not the social model of care. And I don't know.
I do kind of think, though, I hate to say the industry, but our profession, the whole profession whole, is kind of looking at things in retrospect, looking back over the last 2 years. And what you said earlier about COVID showing how important social interaction was, and seeing people's faces, like now that the masks are being lifted in some places, being able to see someone smile again, how joyful that is. And I think looking back on that now, I think maybe this year, what you said too earlier, Lisa, that there seems to be so much recognition, so much celebration of our week. You know, I've seen it on Facebook, and it's just so nice to see the activity department standing there so proudly with their gift bags and their special shirts. Maybe they're finally starting to realize that, hey, you know, the activity department is an important person, you know, and it is the threefold piece. It's the body, the mind, the spirit. That's important. You can't take care of the body without taking care of the mind and the spirit.
Right.
And so maybe that's why this year Activity Professional Week looks so good. I know there's a few people that are like, I didn't get anything, but I've seen so many photos of departments being acknowledged and doing so many nice things. It warms my heart to see all that.
Well, you know, I'm a very shy person, right? Haha. And so I remember, you know, back in my days when I was working full time in a community, if I had an administrator, you know, that was new, I'd be like, I'd go to them in November and say, I just want you to know that this week is Activity
My week.
Professional Week, and you will be doing these things. And I think sometimes I think we do get a little shy or a little timid to speak up for ourselves and say, you know, this is our week. And you know, I think our president Amy Laughlin said on Monday during our Facebook Live with the NAAP board, something that really resonated with me, you know, was that we are generally the party planner of the community, right? So when we expect somebody else to do a party for us, it's probably not going to happen because that's not in their wheelhouse like it is in ours. And so sometimes we just have to party for ourselves. And I think, you know, I know that's frustrating, and I don't encourage that, but I do think it's important and valuable, you know, that we do stand up for who we are, what we do, and make it and the differences that we make on a regular basis with our residents and be recognized. I saw somebody else posted, maybe you saw this too, Debbie, that they had, like, for one of their days of NAP week, they did a little cute basket of thank you notes and had people write thank you notes to
Yes, I
them.
saw that.
I thought
Yeah.
that was so very much fun. I love that. It was
And
just
I've seen a lot of, like, they've done like interdepartmental activities. Like there was a Minute to Win It, one community, they
yes.
involved everybody. So I think that's one way to get our message across, is involve the interdisciplinary staff in an activity, show you how much fun it is, and to build relationships. And that's what it's all about. You know, the week is not just to like get cake and free t-shirts and gifts. It's to communicate to others the value of what we do. This is the week where we toot our own horn, tell everybody how fabulous we are. Yeah, a gift would be nice, but at least tell me how great I am.
Right. I want my t-shirt.
Yeah, well, that's
And,
I saw somebody, they were at like some hibachi grill. I mean, there were some decent things going on out there.
So much fun.
So consistent with this acknowledgement of the value and the positive contribution and the positive outcomes from engagement and activities is some of the things that I've been hearing about where the acknowledgement comes from. And absolutely, in large part, there's more attention due to the fact that activities and visitations and volunteers were canceled, right? Because of infection control. So you had isolation, loneliness, depression. And of course, the default is psychotropic drugs. So what people are realizing, and you hear this more and more, is the phrases and the words like life enrichment. Okay. So, you know, and that is a department or a title. But what's really interesting besides life enrichment is the psychosocial or psycho-emotional well-being. So those are the words and the buzzwords and the phrases that I think acknowledge what the activity professional does. The well-being, whether it's psychosocial, psychospiritual, psycho-emotional, you know, that's really because it was so damaged during the isolation of COVID.
I think you're so right, Peter. It's the lingo we use, and so that's what we have to do, is to bring that value to it. You know, when we use the right lingo, like you said, enriching the lives or engaging in the psychosocial. And I love how you put psycho in front of each of the areas of focus too. I think that's really good.
Yeah. And some of the top people who get this, there, because in one of the tags, there's a reference to activity therapy or activity therapists. And somebody is using the phrase activity therapists, oh yes, they're almost invisible in many respects, and all the attention's on CNAs and but the activity therapists. And it's like, yeah, that's it. The therapy, the positive outcomes that come from all those things, which is hard to do because you can pick them one at a time. Music, get qualified in that. Art, get qualified in that. But activities is so broad, it's just not acknowledged.
That's so true. Well, we did have a question come in. I don't know if we'll have time to answer it because it is a very long answer, I would say, that this person asked. They've worked both in long-term care and now they're working in assisted living. And so they wanted to know if there was a difference with the documentation between the two facilities. And, I would say yes, there is, because, of course, skilled nursing long-term care is heavily regulated, federally regulated, and not every assisted living community, it obviously depends on the state you are in, has the same type of state regulation. So I think that would be a challenge to respond to about how the documentation is different. And do you have anything to add to that, Debbie?
I think you've explained it, the nursing home, skilled nursing, very regimented, specific requirements that we have to meet. And assisted living is state regulated. And then it's also policy regulated. There are some assisted living corporations that require certain documentation. So they are definitely different. I don't think they do the care planning as intensively as we do in skilled nursing, but they do a life assessment, collect interest and things like that, which I think is essential to developing it. And even in assisted living, you need individualized programs.
Absolutely.
So they are different.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's spending more on that like interest form where the likes and the dislikes are, and then being able to have the calendar cater to them. I think that's,
and you could even compare adult daycare to that.
Yeah.
The adult daycare is state regulated and completely different. So they're all three different eggs, and you have to know the regs for each.
Well, Becky, I would encourage you, if you are a member of NAAP, we did host on Monday a calendar programming webinar that is now will be added to our on-demand education portion of the portal in the NAAP website. And we actually talked about that because we had representatives from every level of care. We had representatives from assisted living, adult daycare, and we also had memory care and skilled nursing. And they did talk about the differences when it comes to preparing the calendar by using the documentation aspect. So I would encourage you, Becky, to check that out if you're still watching with us, and that would be a good one to review because it kind of goes into a little bit more detail on there, of course. Awesome. Well, we do have some raffles. Are we ready to do that, or do we have anything else we want to share before we get to that?
Well, I do. I just want to make a couple of comments to share with the audience. A couple of exciting things that we've got going on at NCCAP.
Awesome.
One is our updated standards, which are on the website now, and I just draw people's attention to, for example, the continuing education hours that have been adjusted now to reflect our allied professionals in the therapeutic rec and occupational therapy. So it's a more reasonable number, but it's based on what is the standard across the profession. So, I say that especially to our lapsed credentialed professionals as an opportunity to renew, in a more expeditious way. But the other thing that's exciting, and I don't know if anybody here is on the mailing list of Activity Connection, but this week you may have seen in there, they're announcing with us a new program where for the first time as a national certification body, based on an NCCAP curriculum, the content from the MEPAP, there's a new 4-hour course for all staff in all care communities across the continuum of care, independent, assisted, memory care, skilled nursing. And that 4 hours are the basic knowledge and skills to deliver person-centered, person-directed care. So how to engage, communicate, interact. And what's new is that when a majority of staff take it, the community gets certified. as a
Oh,
person-centered care community. So it's a way to create and maintain a culture of person-centered, person-directed care. So,
awesome.
that's new, and we're excited about that.
That's awesome. So is that offered through NCAP or through Activity Connection?
Through NCAP.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you
So people will
look
know
for
where to
the
go.
newsletter, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of likes on that one. So I just wanted to have that
Oh,
clarified. Where do they go to find that? Because I think people are super excited about that, the opportunity they have now to have their community person-centered engagement. I love that.
yeah, especially with all the turnover. I mean, it's
Yeah.
only 4 hours, and it's broken down as 15-minute lessons because all
Ah,
these owners and operators and the nursing home administrator says that's all the time I can pull somebody off their job.
yeah.
Give me the essential, give me the practical,
I
person-centered.
Bite-sized learning coming to its finest. I love it. Perfect. We love that. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that good news. We're excited to see NCAP continue to grow along with our relationship with you. And I know you'll be representing at our national conference in Reno. We'll be there the end of April into the beginning few days of May. We're super excited to be together again. It's going to be fun. And we have lots of great things planned for that. So hopefully each of you that are watching are planning to attend and be there with NAAP, and NCAP will be there as well. And we're super happy to have you as our certification body. We do appreciate all you do. So one of our raffle prizes that we're going to be giving away was donated by Linda Redhead, who is the president of NCAP, and we're so thankful to Linda for donating this amazing prize. We had a couple of other MEPAP instructors that also donated, and people have been super excited for this. So hopefully you're our present, because you have to be present to win. And our winner of the MEPAP class that'll be offered through Linda Redhead is, are you ready? Carrie Antonin. Carrie, are you on the screen? If so, please say I'm here in the chat box so that we can award you this amazing prize. Carrie, are you available? Carrie, are you here? Carrie Antonin, you have won the MEPAP class. And if not, we'll go back to the raffle bin and draw again. So we'll give her a minute to do that. But um, we also have a beautiful activity planner that is by Will Gather, and we have been giving one away every day all week, and we're super excited to give another one. Thank you, Carrie. She is here. Congratulations, Carrie.
Hey,
We will send you an email notification by the end of the day with more information on how to claim your prize. Congratulations on that. And then our Will Gather activity planner winner is Kara Knowles. So Kara, if you are on here, please say you are here. Let's see, somebody said sorry. Yes, congratulations, Carrie. Let's see if Kara is on. Yes, Carrie, you won the MEPAP prize, and now we're asking for Kara Knowles to claim the Will Gather activity planner. So we're just giving Kara a minute to hopefully say she's on.
while you're waiting, I'll show my vintage sweatshirt that I got at the Milwaukee conference. Do you remember that one?
Yes,
Lisa?
yes.
Activity professionals were all heart. Milwaukee 30 years ago. Had it at
Wow.
the closet.
Yes. That's so fun. I love that. I even had my NAP blue vest I meant to wear, but I have it packed somewhere because we used to have these blue vests with the NAP on that. And congratulations, Kara. We see that you are here, so we will email you also later with the instructions on how to claim your raffle prize. And I want to thank you, Peter and Debbie, for being here today. I really appreciate each of you individually and all the things that you do for the profession. And I also appreciate you collectively for what you do for NCAP as well, because I know that lots of things don't get done without amazing people, and you guys are both amazing people with getting everything accomplished. Super exciting with the news you announced, Peter, about the changes to the NCAP and the engagement course that can be offered through NCAP that is partnered with Activity Connection, and we're super excited for that, as well as the changes that have come into play when you renew your certification. So I know there'll be more information coming out from NCAP on that. It's probably already up on your website. If not, it will be, and everybody will be able to hear that news, or you can rewatch and see if you missed that along the way. But again, thank you so much. I want to personally thank everybody out there for everything that you do. This has been an amazing week, and keep those pictures coming. And hopefully we can keep the momentum going as we enter into the year of 2023, as we celebrate adventure awaits, because that's what it's all about, is taking on new adventures and new journeys. And thank you again for all that you do. And Peter, Debbie, thank you. I really appreciate
Thank you.
both of you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye, everybody. Happy NAAP week. Happy weekend.